You are listening to The Robert Scott Bell Show.
This is Four Sigmatic. Let me explain. This is a functional mushroom in Four Sigmatic food. This is literally a Four Sigmatic food. You see, when you plot out the nutrition of all foods, you'll find some foods are horrible, most are okay, and a few are amazing. The further you get from the average food, the more rare it is, and more sigmas you have. Only 50 superfoods qualify as Four Sigmatic.
Yeah.
It's a hard-to-understand name, but of course it is. They're Finnish, a people of few words, who don't really like to explain themselves.
Okay.
Meet Tero, founder of Four Sigmatic.
Moro.
Meet Tero's friends, not those friends. Meet the founding team of Four Sigmatic.
Markus Antero Karjalainen, Rasmus,
Henrik Kalevi Nokelainen, Juho Hermanni Ollinpoika Heinola, Miksu.
In 2012, they came up with a wild idea to put mushrooms in coffee. Finland has the world's highest coffee consumption, and Finns have been brewing chaga tea for centuries. So they combined the two to bring the magic of mushrooms to the rest of the world. To keep up with demand, the work was never done. The team grew and kept growing. From just mushroom coffee to a wide range of products using over 20 types of functional mushrooms and adaptogens. Now sold in over 65 countries, online, in a room, in stores, and even in a van. So this is Four Sigmatic, everyday magic delivered straight to you by some really fun guys.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
I listen to get accurate, up-to-date information.
I've learned so much from him.
It is awesome. It's the best entertainment that I've found.
You rock the health world. Keep it up. I love you.
Now, the voice of health, freedom, and liberty, here's Robert Scott Bell.
I don't know what day it is. Don't know what time it is, but somehow, some way, some reason, we're on the air. We're still here, Super Don. How is it possible? I better, unbutton the top thing. I'm going to, I won't breathe, right? It's enough that they try to mask you. It's like, I don't have to wear the top button tight, do I, Super Don? Dress up today or anything?
You trying to be, fancy and stuff? Or?
Nah, I had to do some video stuff again. All the off-the-air stuff. But anyway, there we are. It's the 20th of January. I think that's right, is it not?
It is.
2020. That means we're a month into winter, officially. And that means the light is continuing to come. I don't know if you've been noticing that the days are getting a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind.
A little bit lighter in the morning when I get up.
Yeah, a little bit lighter perhaps in the morning when you get up as well. So that's great. Anything else going on today, Super D?
I should have looked it up. Who knows? Every day's a holiday. Today could be, National Cheese Whiz Day or something.
I thought it was recycling pickup day, but I screwed up on that.
Oh, is it?
Apparently
Okay.
not, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really noticed anything in the news, or it's kind of a slow news day today.
I think so. So we could just talk health and healing. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
Can we?
All right.
All right.
We're being somewhat funny.
Is anybody going to yell at us if we? Well, you do the yeoman's work behind the scenes. We talk about it. The review of news cycles and things that are happening, breaking news and such. And apparently there was something called an inauguration that occurred earlier today.
Correct.
To who's going to be the next leader of the bankrupt United States of America. And is that me being anti-American? No, that's me acknowledging, again, 1933 on the congressional record. Something happened that nobody seems to pay attention about, too, all right? And so we're talking about ping-ponging and flip-flopping back and forth between parties, two heads, if you will, of the same body, with the unusual exception that stuff happens via miraculous means. Some things can happen that are good too, So I don't know what I know. People are feeling it. A lot of people are emotional out there today. I've witnessed it in my sphere. I've become, I think, better at detaching from all that we've been covering, because it's a matter of, just like you said, the serenity prayer, that which you don't have control over. Just be able to let it go and turn it over to God. Right, that which you have control over. Yeah, obviously take control over that. But, Super Don, what can you report today? We got Ty Bollinger, of course, coming up in hour 2. We'll probably get more into it, but what do you want to say?
Look, I knew this was coming. So, I mean, it wasn't a big shock for me. I did watch the inauguration just because, I mean, we can't sit here and talk about it if we don't see it.
Yeah.
Or watch it, at least one of us anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of boring. It was Joe Biden, so you're not going to expect it's going to be super exciting and charismatic.
Were there thousands of people right there, like every year every time that happens?
No, I think they'd said they had maybe a total of like 2,000 people there that were allowed to be there because of the social distancing situation and because they have everything locked down so tight. So there were some people there, but they were all like, spaced apart.
Spaced out. Spaced out would be the right way to say it.
So
I thought Joe Biden would probably freak out because he had hardly got 10 people at his rally. So I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these people. They like me. They really like me. They're paid to be here. Oh, I don't mean to be mean about it. Honestly,
I get it. It's a defense mechanism, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, you had Lady Gaga came out and sang the national anthem. And she actually did a decent job, but she had this giant pin on her chest. I should grab a picture of it. A giant pin on her. It was a giant dove. I swear it was about this big because, she doesn't do anything small. Everything's, like.
Didn't she wear like a peacock dress or a meat dress at one point?
A meat dress one time. Yeah, I never like that. So anyway, she sang the national anthem. They had the swearing in of everybody. Jennifer Lopez sang a song. I can't remember what song it was. And then Garth Brooks came out and sang Amazing Grace.
Okay.
So that was that part of it. The speech that Biden gave was very textbook, kind of like what you would expect. Wasn't really exciting. You know how Biden is. He tries to say stuff that is like very supposed to be inspirational, but it just comes across as scripted. But the one thing that I took away from his speech, he had this recurring theme of talking about a need for unity. And he used this word probably 4 or 5 times in his speech about unity. And so I picked up what he was trying to lay down there.
Okay.
But for me, it's very hard to hear somebody talk about unity when everybody they're surrounded by is trying to persecute and go after and silence and censor everybody who either supported Trump or had a conservative point of view. That is not unity to me. That creates more divisiveness. So where I'm at in this here is, okay, fine, Biden. Look, you're the president. You're the guy. If you truly want healing and unity in this country, then you cannot either support or stand idly by as your administration and the Congress tries to enact revenge at this point.
Revenge legislation, yeah.
On everybody who didn't vote for Biden.
Or even the whole that salivating like a rating to eat raw meat, the censorship issues we talk about.
Yeah,
if you call for unity and you're like also trying to suppress voices of dissent or different viewpoints, again, this is not unity. Now, here's my appeal today, based on what you're telling me. For those of you who supported or wanted Trump in there, whether you are hardcore or somewhere in the, anywhere in there, like we try to be reasonable about the reasons we liked him, the reasons we didn't, all of that, just try to look at each issue and policy and that kind of thing. But my request is that we do not take that same level of seething rage and hatred that they threw at us just because we had different views or different supports and things, ideas, that we would do that same thing back. I mean, that's a big ask, not for this audience. I think, this audience gets to that deep spiritual level. I pray that that's true. But it'll be too easy to look at these people, even if we're correct in our assessment of how they got there and other things like that, but to take that same seething rage and hatred and apply it back on them, that would be destructive to our ends, if we are truly wanting some semblance of freedom, defensive freedom, etc. Many people left the Democrat Party and did the hashtag walkaway scenario or campaign, like Brandon Strzok started, because they saw the seething hatred and rage that didn't fit the claims of we're the loving party, we're the non-judgmental party, that kind of thing. And so if we begin to embrace those properties of the left that really just had Trump derangement syndrome, and then we go into what's the guy's name, president now? What's his name?
Biden,
thank you.
Yes.
Derangement syndrome or Kalimar derangement. I mean, look, I just don't want it to go there. We'll point out the things that we like or don't like as things progress, based on the principles that we espouse and the Constitution that we'd like to see one day come back, to. And maybe I'm being unreasonable in asking that, because again, there's a lot of emotion, and I'm not saying you should suppress your emotions and pretend it's not there.
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Okay.
You have my support, President Bell, on that thing, because it's the way you have to go forward. And some people aren't going to. Look, I understand tensions, emotions are high today for a lot of people, and I get it. But at this point, hanging on to that rage or that anger or that depression or that sadness, stuff like that, it's not going to serve anybody.
It's going to do no more damage to yourself in the meantime. Now, again, not to suppress emotions. That's not my point. Let it out.
Direct it.
Primal scream therapy, whatever you got to do. Or if you're really angry, stramonium, the homeopathic remedy, sounds like a stromboli, but it's not. Stramonium, Stramonium. If you're really feeling depressed, little sepia, SEPIA, the inky juice of the cuttlefish Super Don loves so much. And if you're just plain frustrated in between, we know Argentum nitricum. Or you could take all three, because you're waving back and forth like the pendulum we've talked about. The movement to this way, and the movement to that way. But I don't want you to harm yourself in wallowing or staying or stewing permanently in those states of emotion, because they really interfere ultimately. I don't mean, going through them. That's just a normal part of life, Super D. We know that. But stewing and staying there, it really disconnects our direct connection with spirit. It kind of says spirit tries to come in, and it's like we block it with these emotions sometimes that become semi or permanent states. And I don't want to see that for whatever many months, days, weeks, years, whatever it is, this transition into this swing of the pendulum, right? Back and forth. We do point out, as you did, Super Don, very well, calls for unity fall hollow or feel hollow when the sincerity of unity, which is not, you don't have to, let's say, agree with us and our views on the Constitution things, yet we could still be unified as a nation. Otherwise, I mean, there are limits to even that, what I'm saying. I'm just thinking as we go here, Super D. I don't have any prepared thoughts.
Listen, a lot of what we're dealing with right here is similar and familiar, yet also uncharted territory. So, we're just going to have to take this one day at a time, and navigate our way through this as it moves forward. But for me personally, and I'm hoping that others as well, will hold the call for unity by Joe Biden, the fire under his feet on that, and remind him as we go forward that every time that something pops up in Congress or within the administration that is the opposite of unity, that's going to be put right back in his face and say, hey, where's the unity? You wanted unity. You wanted healing. What's going on over here contradicts that. And that I hope that's something that is remembered and brought up with him, because there's so much that's being talked about. And we're going to touch on some of these things today in the second hour with Ty, that are the opposite of unity. There's no way you can have unity if you are attacking the citizens of your own country and driving a wedge in between them. So,
right. Oh, by the way, tell me, can you check on the veracity of this? It made me chuckle. It actually made me laugh out loud. My wife on her phone, her friend sent this thing that was supposedly the letter Trump left for Biden, on the official presidential seal. And it just was simply this. It said, Joe, comma, I won. Donald Trump. And to me, it struck me and made me laugh.
I know he left a letter, but I don't know
right,
that's what it said.
Yeah. I'm sensing that might not be real, but it was funny. It was just funny. Just Joe, come. You know I won. Trump. And anyway, I had to find some laughter here in this regard. Somebody asked me about those 3 homeopathic remedies. I just typed them into the chat room. I think that was coming from which, let's see, where was it? What that request was coming from. Oh, that was from Sarah on Facebook, watching for us on Facebook Live. But I went ahead and put it out on all of our, you know how we do, the Restream chat goes out to everywhere. So if you want to know those 3 remedies for the extreme swings of emotions that are human, they're human. But I don't want y'all to be trapped there, is my point. There's enough to be angry about. Sure, every day there's certainly plenty of things that we could be angry about. But I don't think we're asked to live in that state permanently. You know, it's just part of our experience here on planet Earth while we watch things happen that seem to be devoid of spiritual principle. And I would even say it this way, constitutional limitations. I'll put it that way. I think that's an important thing to consider or acknowledge. Now, if we go to the show notes here, let me see if I can do that real quick. See what we're going to do. Let's see, open it up. There we are. Okay, so here we go. There's Trump leaving from Marine One, I think, this morning. Here we go. A new CDC director takes over beleaguered agency amid crisis. Okay, so this is we're going to go right to health and healing from a semi-political standpoint, but this is apolitical in a sense because the CDC rolls with the Church of Pharmaceutical Mysticism. Make no mistake, Big Pharma, it is just all over, in and out the CDC. It's incestuous. It's just, you can't tell where Big Pharma ends and the CDC begins and vice versa. And so this woman, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, apparently the new CDC director, she's Harvard trained, Harvard Medical School, Mass General Hospital, full on allopathic medicine. Don't kid yourself. It was that also happening with a rare exception, even when Trump was president. But this Dr. Rochelle, she's 51, infectious disease specialist, and she's expected to become the CDC director this week. And this is where I got mad. This is where I need a stramonium dose, homeopathic stramonium. A time when the virus's U.S. death toll has eclipsed 400,000 and continues to accelerate. Now, what makes me mad and angry about that is that at the very least, it's a magnificent, not in a good way, major league magnification, amplification. It's like PCR tests, what they did with the death rates here. It's an exaggeration beyond exaggeration. And when I was talking with Super Don before the show, I was not speaking very nicely. I was dropping language that I don't say on the air here.
Yes,
you can verify that.
I verify.
But I had to get it out of my system so I could go to air and be family friendly, because I know there are a lot of kids in the audience. But kids, don't say what I was thinking. They claim that the death toll has eclipsed 400,000. And at the risk of being, again, banned and deplatformed, because we're not allowed to have opinions about the numbers that authoritarians in government and media and medicine proclaim, the 400,000 number is not a validated number, as we've said so many times before. Even the CDC, yes, the CDC had said that, what was it, 6% or 9% of the total death counts that they were claiming may have only that percent been directly COVID, right? And it doesn't mean that others couldn't have possibly died from it, even though I dispute the whole basis for the claims. But the numbers that they throw out there and they get away with it is what annoys me. And see, this is where, when they call for unity, what do they mean? Unitarian thought. That's not unity in the way that people are perceiving or thinking unity is, because unity sounds great. Oh, we're all unified, right? What does that really mean? If it means Unitarian thought, that means that when the CDC declares, or the mainstream media declares, or the social media fact checkers declare that 400,000 is the number shall be 400,000, not 300,000. not 500,000, but 400,000. You know, then, of course, if you have a perspective that you can even back up with statements made by those very same authoritarian agencies, where's the unity in going, okay, we'll allow that opinion to be voiced? As opposed to, no, we need to censor and deplatform somebody who's disputing the numbers that are being proclaimed far and wide by mainstream media, again, medical circles, the CDC, authoritarians, all. I didn't even mention the WHO because if we disagree with the WHO, you know what happens. So that, again, you're going to let them get away with that? It's a lie. It's a gross exaggeration. And even if I were to give them the claim of the 6% number of that total number, I still have questions about it, and I ask everybody about it. Where is the evidence that you actually caught the virus in the act of doing the things that led to the death directly, solely, on its own, with no other comorbidities, pre-existing conditions, on and on? We've pointed that out too. And it's a problem if we allow them to get away with it, yet their control of the town square, electronic town square, means that more people than not are going to be exposed to the number and go, wow, yeah, 400,000, that's pretty bad. It's like bad. And yeah, we've got to participate with lockdowns that even, as we pointed out, mainstream medical literature, peer-reviewed publications putting out that it appears that those lockdowns really don't mean a hill of beans compared to those where they do lockdowns. Like the end result is not different. So do we defer to living in fear? And Super Don, thanks for doing that yesterday. I don't know if y'all saw it. Super Don, you took like a 3-minute clip from yesterday's show. When I asked the question about lockdowns, is it about the fear of dying or the fear of living? And you know how you found that 3 minutes, because I had like 2 30-minute sections at least where I was just streaming. It was like, this is what's coming out of me. I'm not aware of what it is as I'm doing it. And you found that little, I think, an important thing to put out in a simple, quick fix kind of way, or quick hit kind of way. So thank you for everybody that's sharing that little 3-minute clip. Because I think it, I don't know, something struck you, Super D. It caused us to think a little bit about what we're doing. What's the value in what we're doing or not? Detriment.
Yeah, no, it was just a good example of the stream of consciousness that you had yesterday. And, people are always asking us, how can we help you with the show? Share those. And I'm going to start putting those out on a regular basis. So just be on the lookout for those. They're just quick little bite-sized pieces of the show. Mm-hmm. And if you share those, make those things go viral, that can go a long way with helping us with the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Super D. And thank you all for helping to share that. So, there's not a lot of difference at the CDC. The head of the CDC comes and goes from time to time. Often they leave, like Julie Gerberdink, become head of Merck's vaccine, $5 billion at the time division, become fortunate billionaires, millionaires, just because they did the bidding of Big Pharma. And the CDC, its primary role and goal is to cheerlead, market, and distribute vaccines. Walensky, supposedly the new CDC head soon, will be attempting to improve the CDC's communications with the public to rebuild trust. But you're already stepping in it by claiming 400,000 people died of COVID. You can't say that. That's not a valid statement. At the very best, you can say related to. But even related is not causal. As we talk about, even claims of isolation does not result in causation. And we've disputed how they describe scientifically what they call isolation, which is way different than any use of the term isolation out in the real world. But they have their artificial reality, these so-called scientists. So Walensky's problematic because she's an HIV researcher. Why is that problematic? Well, if you've listened to the Robert Scott Bell Show long enough, followed our ancient videos with our buddy Liam Sheff, no longer with us, you recognize there's so many problems with HIV research and the claims of isolating that virus, much less proclaiming it as the cause of death by a zillion immunological paper cuts? Because HIV was that so-called retrovirus that one day Margaret Heckler, at the time, I think head of HHS, made the declaration, we think we found the probable cause of AIDS. And then they bring in Bob Gallo, another, in my humble opinion, criminal on the order of Fauci, who have devastated the scientific research community by directing funds only to the church dogma when HIV became the de rigueur. This is the thing. We got to do it. And, of course, it used to kill everybody instantly until it started taking months, and then it started taking years, and it started taking decades. And once again, we're left with what really is the problem with people that were called AIDS victims. Was it a retrovirus, or was the immune collapse due to everything we talk about in the law of the terrain, going back to Antoine Béchamp times 10, times 100, times 1,000? What do we got to do to destroy our immune systems? And you look at the population that suffered primarily at the time, and then realize that the vast majority of deaths after they supposedly came out with a cure, AZT, which was not a cure, the people were actually killed by AZT. It's an old story. Just had to revisit it now because you've got a woman that's deeply entrenched and invested in the dogma in the Church of Pharmaceutical Mysticism and the HIV religion or cult. So already, I don't know this woman from Adam or Eve, right? But I can tell that her world has been colored. She's wearing pharmaceutical dogmatic horse blinders. So what is she going to do? She's going to go right into the CDC and do the bidding of her pharmaceutical handlers. Does that change? Did that change much under Trump? Look, Trump did some good things regarding taking on big pharma in some ways. At the same time, they're still here growing just as big and bad as ever because of warp speed, which, yes, dual-edged scenario. On one level, on one hand, warp speed has brought more people onto the awareness of vaccine injuries, vaccine deaths, vaccine dangers, lack of efficacy, safety, on it goes. That's a net positive. On the downside, that it's out there for all the ignorant people that are afraid, that are rushing in to get shots. Many of them are going to be taken out of the life chain, particularly the elderly and frail, as we're hearing about those stories. Yet, even as we quote the medical agencies of various countries reporting on this, the next day we find there's some kind of override by those countries, those governments saying, oh, no, there's no relationship. And we pointed out painstakingly the invalidity of the statement that there is no link, there's no connection at all, because they haven't even looked into it. So it becomes a public relations campaign. And so what she's doing, according to the article, is going in to establish better PR for the CDC, because Trump ruined it for everybody, right? That's always the game now. It's Trump's fault. He ruined the CDC. He brought Scott Atlas out. My gosh, how dare that MD talk differently than all the others that we had under our control? Is that unity? Unifying thought so that all thoughts that stray outside the dogma are disallowed, censored, denigrated, Wakefielded, on it goes? So as we move forward here in a theoretical new administration, what are we going to find is the definition of the term unity? Super Don, that's where we're at right now. Just like we talk about the words that they use. Isolation. What does the word isolation mean? Immunity. What does the word immunity mean? Herd immunity. What does that mean? They change the definitions and you don't know what they're talking about. They hope that you don't, because then you're completely manipulated and controlled by confusion. Is it Orwellian when Biden says unity? We'll find out.
That's the question, you know. I mean, what do you mean by unity? You know, I mean, as long as people agree with you, then we're united. That's not unity. You've got to include people that don't agree with you too. And he said so. I mean, in his speech, you know, it's like,
and I didn't see it.
If you don't agree with me, then that's okay too. But we have ways of doing that. So, you know, fine. But we got to not have short-term memory loss.
Right. Correct.
We need to hold him to this. And by the way, on the new CDC director thing, I saw an interview she did, I think, with NPR.
Okay.
And her strategy on how to, let's make the CDC more preeminent again, now that, that Trump is gone, or like that. She thinks that if she goes out and she talks more about science, that's somehow going to change that. No, I think at this point, people are kind of like done with the whole thing of CDC thinking all they have to do is just talk about science, and that somehow is going to make everybody believe them.
Yeah.
you guys have screwed up the trust that anybody had with you so bad that people don't care about you coming out and talk about scientific studies. You got to prove it to them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say science in a crowded theater.
Science says so. This is what you should do.
Right.
No,
and
that's not going to work.
No, they've lost it, and that's the thing, the trust that they've lost. How do they rebuild it? Do they pay their scientists more? I mean, what is the strategy here? We're going to
start
get
telling the truth.
Yeah, try that. Try that.
That must be a good start.
Honestly, someone that's been so immersed in HIVology, I don't think knows the truth anymore. Because you can dive so deep into a belief system that is not valid that you can't find your way out for generations, for lifetimes. I don't know that, and I don't mean to limit somebody's ability to transform. That's not my goal here. But to recognize that if somebody's so deeply immersed in that you try to speak to them rationally and logically about discrepancies, then they go into cognitive dissonance. And that cognitive dissonance leads to what? The new Orwellian definition of unity. As long as you believe the same way I do, we can get along just fine. That's what concerns me moving forward, folks. So I'm happy to hear, Super Don, that you're reporting Biden spoke a nice game on unity and even said if you disagree with me, that's great. But I'll believe it as the behavior is following the words, the verbiage, and the definitions meet what we need to agree upon in that regard. Definitions, you have to find the definitions of these words. So, Super Don, let's take a break. When we come back, I'll go briefly into Janet Yellen's strategy in the new.
She's back.
She's back. Janet Yellen, head of the Fed, I think, isn't that right? Or yeah. And with that, take a break. Say thanks to our friends at Trinity School of Natural Health. We got a Trinity guest coming up soon, don't we?
We do. On Friday, Sally Banks will be joining us.
Great. Super duper. Looking forward to that. In the meantime, say thanks to them and learn more about the very varied options you have at Trinity School of Natural Health, trinityschool.org, to help yourself and others no matter what's going on politically. All right, check them out. We'll be right back.
Trinity's Certified Aromatherapy Specialist Program builds a solid foundation for clinical aromatherapy use. You will understand the chemistry and synergy of essential oils and how to safely and effectively use them with yourself, your family, your clients for body, mind, and spiritual balancing. In this course, you will learn how to safely integrate aromatherapy within your practice, how to create the most effective blends combining the art of plant synergy and the science of organic chemistry, research-based findings on essential oil interactions and the therapeutic uses for physical, emotional, and spiritual balancing, and how to utilize other aspects of aromatherapy beyond essential oils can enhance your methodology. Aromatherapy is a fascinating art and science. Each essential oil has an array of incredible healing properties, uses, and effects. If you have any questions or feel this is the right program for you, please email or call us today and get started on your journey towards transforming the world.
All right, remember trinityschool.org, trinityschool.org. Links are up, as always, in the show notes, including my lecture, a lecture on demand. Some of you have downloaded it. Love to get your feedback on it when you get a chance. And it's the Clinical Homeopathy 101 Plus. And if you go to the show notes and scroll down to the bottom, Super Don has that listed, and you can click on that. So if you're not, doing full-on coursework, and there are varying intensities of coursework from 2 to 8 weeks to 2 years, depending on the level of intensity. But this is a lecture in about an hour. You will learn things that most people, even homeopaths, had not heard about. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to consider the Clinical Homeopathy 101 Plus from Trinity School of Natural Health. Now, if I scroll back up in the notes, we'll see the set. We got Ty Bollinger coming up in hour 2. Janet Yellen. What is her strategy now moving forward now that Biden is president? It's hard to say that. I know. Even I go, ooh, yeah, okay. What are we to make of this? What is Yellen saying here? Yellen urges Congress to act big to prop up pandemic-scarred economy. Now, some could argue that, yeah, the federal government owes us. They owe everybody because they participated in this shutdown, this lockdown, on and on and on. And then the state governments and all of that. At the same time, what is the net or end result of what Janet Yellen is proposing? She is the president-elect. I wasn't even up on this, Yellen, who's head of the Fed. Nominee to lead the Treasury Department. Okay, because Yellen used to head the Fed. So I just been not following her. But she says that lawmakers should pass the $1.9 trillion spending package that the incoming administration had proposed to keep families and businesses afloat, as well as to accelerate vaccinations against COVID-19. Now, again, economics, World Economic Forum, all of that stuff is all about, how do we get the vaccine everywhere, which is interesting, except that there's a huge economic stake in the Church of Pharmaceutical Mysticism, which runs in and out of every aspect of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund and all the interventions done around the world. Big Pharma is not far behind the bankers in wreaking havoc and leaving carnage behind. So that was it. Yellen was the head of the Fed from 2014 to 2018, and she would be the first woman to lead the Treasury Department. So if she succeeds in pumping up what Biden and the Democrats would normally do, and look, I got to be honest, as I always attempt to be here, Trump did not slow spending down at all. It went bigger and badder than ever. I mean, we can make excuses for it, but just let's look at the math. Despite whoever's president, Republican or Democrat, that didn't change much, and the acceleration is on. So my question is, if the spending does go even more parabolic, if you will, than it was under Obama and Trump, what is the end result? It is the de facto Great Reset. Without saying, right, like Canada's Trudeau said, oh yeah, we need the Great Reset, without even embracing it overtly, out and out going, yep, we need the Great Reset here in America. Whether Biden says it or not, the spending, the profligate spending to new levels of infinity would result in the de facto Great Reset. Why? How? Because it will lead to the destruction of the Federal Reserve note dollar, which has been predicted by many, not just me. Inevitably, it's only a matter of when, not if. And at that point in time, what is the solution from our federal government, from our centralized power structure bureaucracy? Is it to decentralize and say, hey, we the people, you the people, got to figure this out locally? What kind of things can you use as a means of exchange to interact in the economy that we destroyed, right, at the centralized, federalized, and global level? No, it's not going to be that response. In fact, they will do everything in their means to try and target for destruction those of us who have figured out the game, and we're on to them, and we see through them, and they can't Orwell their way out of it because we can see the language they're using, and we know the definitions don't match up. So the Great Reset is about what? Centralizing on a global scale the monetary system through digital means to basically own and control everything under the guise of, hey, no more debt. You have a loan, we'll forgive it. You got a mortgage, we'll forgive it. You go, hooray, I'm free. No, you're not free, because now they say you cannot own anything ever again. Private property abolished. Hello, communism. Hello. That's what it is. Oh, but communism sounds really good, doesn't it? No debt. Except your behavior is controlled completely because now you are wholly and totally dependent on a centralized state bureaucracy, which is owned and controlled by what? Globalists, international banksters, pharmaceutical interests or conglomerates. And they say you have to have a vaccine, a shot, a drug, and you don't. Well, according to our records, because you have real ID or the vaccine passport, you don't qualify for leaving your house to go to the grocery store now. You can just go hungry. And you don't think they can outlaw home gardens? Would they try it? That's been done. Front yard gardens. Have they outlawed the collection of rainwater? Yeah, it's been done. How much have we put up with? Fundamental violations of our right to life, liberty, and property, to survive. In a sense, when they say, no, you can't operate economically unless you acquiesce to our digital currency, thanks to the Great Reset, the World Bank, IMF, and the Federal Reserve acting in concert. Janet Yellen knows. Spend, and it's a de facto reset. We don't have to say we're for it. It's just going to happen because people are going to go, I'm begging, I'm hungry, I got no money. And they come in with their digital currency, which then is completely controlling your behavior. If you don't behave the way they say you should behave, lockdown. Not everybody, just the people that they've digitized and connected with digitally. They say, you know what, that bank account, you thought you were working for money that was yours, not yours. You don't get any. You get the shot, we'll release the funds again. Folks, it's been happening in Australia where they dock the child support credits or whatever it is there for those who are not vaccinating. Don't tell me it's not part of that plan. It absolutely is. Vaccine passports, what are they about? Limiting your freedom. Denigrating those who have a disagreement with the unity of potentially what Biden was really saying versus what we want to hear him say or what he wants us to think we're saying, or those who wrote the script for him. This is not being cynical. This is me being very cautious and acknowledging the history of what we've seen, both sides of the political fence, for a long, long time now. And I will urge you, as I have done for years, to find ways to localize your interaction with the economy, to become entrepreneurs that has lowered your reliance upon those who can control and own you via controlling and owning your means of economic interface. If they digitize the Federal Reserve note via the World Bank and the IMF, special drawing rights, SDRs, and all of that stuff, this is what they want to accomplish. They've telegraphed it. It's not hidden. I'm not conspiring. I'm not talking about theories. I'm talking about things that are right out there for anybody to read, which is what they want to achieve. What stands in their way? What has always stood in their way since 1776? And we'll talk about it more with Ty Bollinger, the movement to ramp up what we call domestic terrorism task forces and things like that. This is not because they're worried about domestic terrorism. They're worried about people who actually believe in the Constitution and the Declaration before it, and what it means and what it stands for. Autonomy, sovereignty, self-rule, freedom, my friends. So, as I say, this goes beyond Democrats and Republicans. It goes beyond Trump. It goes beyond Biden. This is something that's been going on for generations. And when we get Jonathan Emord back on, we can talk a little bit about that as it related to the progressive movement of the 19th century into the 20th and the 21st. With that, take a pause, and I think we got, do we have questions of the day or comments of the day first there, Super D? What do you think?
Question. I think
Good
it's
question.
questions first.
All right,
Questions first.
Here we go. Question of the day.
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Oh boy, do we have questions of the day. Let's check them out here. First one from Bill. I don't know if this is the same Bill that kind of called me out for saying more better blues or more better. But it's Bill. Hi, guys. I was listening to a nutritionist talking about silver. He said that silver kills the good bacteria in our gut. Is that true? If it is true, how is silver to be used? So let's start with that. Silver is a broad spectrum antimicrobial. It is. But I've covered in my lectures, various lectures throughout the years and various statements here, based on peer-reviewed medical literature, the science that validates what I'm telling you. Not that I didn't need it to do that because I've seen it, witnessed it in terms of healing protocols, but I will just say, yes, indeed. Within the medical literature, they have flooded the gastrointestinal tract with silver, varying concentrations to the point of ridiculousness. And what happens is that, yes, there is a tamping down, a general cleanse of the flora, the microflora of the gut. And you say, oh, so that's right then. So then it is getting, okay, hold on, hold your horses. When they tested that against water, just water, flooding the gut with water, they found a similar impact, a flushing, a cleansing, and an overall general reduction in terms of the microflora. But what is unique about both of these circumstances that I'm just describing to you, Bill, this is coming right from the medical literature, is that in both instances, there was no evidence of disruption to microbiome biodiversity. Keyword biodiversity. That is the key, because it isn't about one strain or one thing. It's about how they all get along, live together in harmony, in unity. All different, though, different purposes, whatever, but all there, hanging out, doing their thing. And in either case of flooding it with water or flooding it with silver, there was no negative impact on gut microbiome biodiversity. Now, compare that to an antibiotic, a synthetic antimicrobial drug of the antibiotic variety. That's targeting bacteria specifically. When they did in the same analysis, they flooded the gut with an antibiotic, there was complete disruption and corruption of microbiome biodiversity, and that's where we saw opportunistic infections be the result. Okay? So this is a distinct difference, even though I will acknowledge, and I've never not acknowledged, the antimicrobial properties of silver. But unlike antibiotics, which are sort of monolateral and unilateral in a sense, and they have an imbalanced impact on the terrain, resulting in opportunistic infections, silver does not have that concern. That's why it can be used safely in the silver aloe protocol to heal the gut, because it's actually leaving the gut healthier than when it arrived. Not only can it tamp down opportunistic infections, dysbiosis, and uniformly bring everything down, but because it's simultaneously reducing inflammation of the lining of the gut and upregulating the healing of tissue and regeneration, you are now restoring integrity. That is the silver aloe protocol, folks. And Bill, if you haven't checked it out, it's right there. How does RSB use bioactive silver hydrosol? That's one, but up above it is looking for the free chapter on silver aloe protocol. Click that, bingo, bango, bongo. You've got the chapter from Unlock the Power to Heal popping up in your browser right away, so you can see the scientific validations for everything I've said. Although the study on microbiome biodiversity popped up. It's slowly populating here. There's Superdon. I don't know why that is. There it is. All right. Silver hydrosol stops downward spiral of gut dysbiosis. But the article about biodiversity came out after the book, and I've referenced it before. The road to colostomy bags is paved with antibiotics and prednisone. That's a disastrous road to go. I don't want anybody to have to go down that road. So with that, also, Daniel from the Power Hour has a silver. I don't know what silver he has. I haven't looked at it. You know, my favorite here is Sovereign Silver and Argentin 23, because I've personally analyzed it, in fact, at third-party laboratories, including years ago. I went to the University of Miami Medical School to analyze the through electron microscope what this is and what this is compared to any other silver. In terms of bioactivity, it's hands down not even close. But that doesn't mean other silvers don't work or won't work. Even a small fraction of bioactive silver among a lot of wasted silver has a benefit. It's just the wasted silver. Why? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So thank you, Bill, for that question. Leads me to the next question from Mel. Hello, RSB, Super D, and friends. It almost sounds like Super Friends.
Super Friends.
Yeah. I have a friend whose husband has suffered from ankylosing spondylitis for some time. A young man of 31 years old is suffering with pain and severe fatigue. Is there homeopathic remedies for this type of arthritic autoimmune condition? Thanks, Mel. Now, I went into autoimmunity yesterday to explain it's a terrain issue. So we got to clear the terrain. We got to detoxify the body. But the most common, and I'm not giving you a comprehensive list because I realize how much time I have left in this hour before Ty's joining us. We have Rus toxicodendron, one of the most amazing remedies. It's poison ivy in homeopathic form. Not only will it be good for rashes and herpetic outbreaks, but also for stiffness of the joint. So it seems to be a very indicated remedy for any arthritic skeletal inflammation condition. Ruta, R-U-T-A, is another great remedy. Colchicum is another wonderful remedy. C-O-L-C-H-I-C-U-M. And again, these are only three of many. And there are comprehensive formulas that Dr. King has and others have. And you can also utilize the limbic arc signaling. You do a limbic arc spark scan, and you can have those things sent to you, to your limbic system directly. But the key is detoxify the body, give the body what it needs. And what does it need when we're dealing with skeletal issues, degradation, degeneration, and autoimmunity? Silicon. Silica. So if we go back here into the show notes at robertscottbell.com, we'll look for choosetobhealthy.com as I'm scrolling down. See if I can find it, or if it's up higher today. I don't know. Oh, there it is. Choose to be healthy in green. Just click that. I'm going to open it in a new window, and I'm going to show you and everybody. And by the way, I sent an email to Mel just to let her know what's going on there. You could shop, and let's look at, I'm going to just search Alta, A-L-T-A, and what comes up? Alta Silica. That's the form of silicon in a 100% whole food form. You'll do 3 tablets 4 times daily in the loading phase, 2 to 4 weeks, depending on severity, a starting point. And then you can start tapering down when you deal with skeletal regeneration issues, connective tissue issues. So there you go. Thank you for asking that question. I appreciate you so much, Mel. Great support of the Robert Scott Bell Show, which leads us to our comment of the day. Or two.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, I tell you what. Hey, here's an idea.
Hey, listen up, everybody. Excuse me.
I got something to say.
As I'm looking at the comment of the day graphics that you used there, Super Don, I know it was many years ago that you did that. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's from like, I don't know.
1992.
Yeah, 92. I don't know. That, in the midst of everything else that you're doing, right? Update that too. Whatever. We can get by. We can get by. So the comment of the day. First one from David. A few years ago, my grandmother had an itch that would not go away. We tried every lotion or potion that we could get our hands on. Nothing worked. Everyone that touched her also developed the itch. Eventually, she was diagnosed as having a parasitic infection, some sort of mite. Her doctor prescribed a horrible insecticide. It worked for her and several family members, but I could not bring myself to take an insecticide. Fortunately, one of my cousins stumbled upon an apple cider vinegar and Epsom salt bath treatment that also worked. David. So, David, you know what I'm going to recommend? My friend Mel, my other friend Mel, the man Mel, from howicuredmorgellons.com. They have to deal with these uncontrollable itching situations, and they have protocols as well. Delimonene I've talked about from time to time, which is a distillate from the orange peel. We use the orange TKO. It's a cleaning agent, but can be used straight or diluted depending on the needs, topically as well. Silver can be used topically as well. Remember, for uncontrollable itching, the homeopathic remedy is an obscure one you don't often see in health food stores, but maybe. You could special order it. It's Mezereum, M-E-Z-E-R-E-U-M. Mezereum. Yeah, I got to see that. Latin. M-E-Z-E-R-E-U-M. Mezereum. So that can be taken orally as a homeopathic. So, David, thanks for that. And continued prayers and love to my mom, Grandma Mickey. She's still, going through the muck here, trying to get through it. And the biggest part of dealing with something that doesn't go away fast is keeping your spirits up. So uplift those who are in trouble, who are struggling right now. Be the best cheerleader you can for them. Help them to remain positive, but also acknowledge their state. Not their fate, but their state. If they're feeling bummed out and negative, you can listen, let them vent, and then just pump them up with positive energy too, because the power of our mind is very real when it comes to getting stuck in ruts or breaking out of those cycles and moving back into healing. We can be beaten down pretty bad, and many of us have been, with our belief and desire for a particular presidential candidate. But again, as I say, it's much bigger than that, folks, much bigger than that. So let's go back to our next question or comment of the day. This is from, and then we'll have Ty Bollinger joining us. This is from Diana. It's spelled D-I-A-N-A-E, interestingly enough. She says, I'm a nurse in a New York nursing home. And yes, I watch your show and listen to the podcast. Dr. Tom Cowan educated me on the truth about the misunderstood COVID virus. However, I found your show when he was a guest and have listened to you ever since. Keep up the great work you're doing to enlighten the public on strengthening and protecting the immune system. And yes, I declined the so-called vaccine. Dude, Super Don, yesterday I was saying we were covering a story about what was going on in the nursing homes, and I'm thinking, no one's listening to the Robert Scott Bell Show there in nursing homes.
Somebody, I think, heard what you said and wrote in.
I guess I'm a little bit naive about our audience sometimes because we don't hear from everybody. There are probably a lot of people out there in circles of listening that are not supposed to be hearing this information. Is that why we're being targeted for censorship? We can't have that people thinking clearly, having critical thinking skills intact and going, I've come to a conclusion different than those in the medical church.
Right.
Wow. Dude, I did not expect that. I think that was probably in response because I said specifically I didn't expect that was happening.
Well, now you know.
I don't know what to make of that. Well,
Now
Diana,
you
I'm
know.
appreciative that you're communicating with us, letting us know. And, it's as inspiring to me as our new patron, her husband-wife team out of Oregon, who was on our AMA. And she said that her husband, and they have a brewery outside of Portland toward the coast, I think. And they were inspired to stand up for their rights to party, so to speak. No, to have a business and have it open and have people come in there. And most people are so grateful that they can, and there's occasionally the snitch, tattletale, Eastern and Stasi that some are encouraging. And we'll get into that, I think, in hour 2, will we not, about the attempts to have a 9/11 style commission on domestic terrorism, which is where? They're reclassifying the term domestic terrorist as someone who believes in individual liberty, the Constitution, the Declaration, and maybe you're even a Republican. I mean, we don't claim to be part of that party, but we certainly like republicanism, that we recognize the Constitution guarantees a Republican form of government that has nothing to do with the Republican Party, because they don't have much to do with the Republican form of government either, most of them. So are you disillusioned yet about the party system? Anybody?
The two-party system?
Yes, specifically that. Yeah.
If you're not yet, then where have you been?
Yeah. What are you on, right? It's not good.
Indeed.
Well, there you go, Mr. Indeed. We're about a minute away from top of the hour, and I'm just want to rest my voice.
I'm going to suggest you shoot a text off to Ty Bollinger, because I just noticed that I got an email.
Yeah.
That they are holding some kind of round table discussion thing.
That
was like a last minute thing they threw together. It's live right now.
Dude, really?
Yeah. I don't see him on it himself.
Because it could be Charlene.
Charlene is kind of leading it, and they've got like several people on there, including Mike Adams and Zach Voorhees. And
yeah. He acknowledged this morning, because I wished him a happy birthday yesterday. By the way, happy birthday, Dr. Rashid Battar, today. And anybody else celebrating birthdays, happy birthday, a wonderful day, auspicious day. I've been talking with Battar behind the scenes a little bit. They're still planning on doing the advanced medicine seminar live in person, as we say. We did that last Memorial Day weekend in Charlotte, despite the governors trying to shut us down. But there are even more things going on in North Carolina where we may or may not be able to have it there. So it may switch to Florida, where it seems to be a little bit more open, or it might even go to South Dakota because of Governor Noem. Noem? How do you say her name? Noem? Because she's very open to having business come to her state. So that's something that we'll be talking about as far as new adventures in the new year. Super D, are you checking with Ty right now? Are you texting him?
I'm doing other multitasking things here.
Okay, we're watching you. I apologize. You were on screen that whole time.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't picking my nose or anything.
Yeah, no, you weren't picking your nose. That's true.
Yeah, I need you to text me if you can.
Okay.
And just make sure that because I haven't seen that he's...
Well, then you say announcements while I'm doing this, because that's hard for
announcements.
me. I'm pretty good at stuff. That might be a limit on that I have. Let's see.
I don't know what I have as far as announcements go. I think we mentioned that on coming up, because today's Wednesday, so tomorrow would be Thursday. So coming up tomorrow, we have got Daryl Joffrey is going to be back.
Ah, yes,
if you remember, he did the Get Off Your Sugar
Summit we did together.
Summit and the book, and he's got a new book.
I think it is Get Off Your Sugar. The first book was Get Off Your Acid.
Acid, that's right. So Get Off Your Sugar book just came out, I think, beginning of the month. And so we'll have him on to talk about his book and what he's up to and catch up on that. And then I think we already mentioned we got Sally Banks from Trinity coming on. And then on Friday we got Michael Bolden. We had to like pin him down.
Yeah. No, he's a busy guy.
To commit to being on the show. And so we negotiated behind the scenes, and we got him on Friday.
I can't wait to have him on anytime. Michael, we love you, Michael Bolden. But a lot of times he's popped on at that bonus segment, and we just kind of riff and have fun. And it's fun because Michael's a fun guy. But, the things that the 10th Amendment Center stands for, the things that he and others within the 10th Amendment Center have written about are more prescient than ever. And for those who, let's say, counted on Trump to solve all the problems of the American whatever. As I said, please, no political saviors. You can like a candidate. That's not what my point in saying that. But we have to take action. And one of the most powerful nonviolent actions we have the capacity to do is nullify things that are patently and blatantly unconstitutional. And some guy's going to help us do that is Ty Bollinger in this hour coming up. He's joining us in just a moment. So I'm going to take a break here, top of the hour, and plot him into the shots. And it's a day late, but it still is his birthday week. So we're going to say happy birthday, Ty Bollinger, anyway, even though today is officially our buddy Bitar's too. But Ty, the man, birthday time for him. We'll be right back with more powerful healing, because the power to heal is yours.
The Robert Scott Bell Show. The Robert Scott Bell Show.
There is no doubt that water is good for you. And thanks to breakthrough technology and recent studies on the effects of hydrogen water, it's growing in popularity. But what's the difference between hydrogen water and plain water? Let's dive deeper into the molecular makeup of plain water. Water molecules have 1 part oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen, and when they combine, the 2 molecules turn into a liquid. But what makes hydrogen water different? Echo machines are designed to dissolve more hydrogen gas into your water, making your normal water into hydrogen water with no pH change. In contrast to plain water, you can see that we now have H2O molecules as well as 2 parts hydrogen gas. These additional H2 molecules are unbonded and remain in gas form. So why is it better to have hydrogen gas dissolved in your water? Hundreds of scientific studies, including the studies by Medical Gas Research on hydrogen-rich water, have helped us understand that there are many biological advantages of drinking hydrogen water, such as neurological benefits that help improve brain function and boost energy throughout the day. In addition to these benefits, dissolved molecular hydrogen has been shown to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, which are the leading causes of disease. Now you can drink with confidence, knowing the difference between hydrogen water and plain water. Like and follow Synergy Science to stay up to date with the latest news on hydrogen water and other ways to achieve your health advantage.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
I listen to get accurate, up-to-date information.
I've learned so much from him.
It is awesome. It's the best entertainment that I've found.
You rock the health world. Keep it up. I love you.
Now, the voice of health, freedom, and liberty, here's Robert Scott Bell.
All right, I'd like to celebrate his birthday every time I can, and we'll do that now with our buddy Ty Bollinger, who just turned 42, right? You are the answer of the question, life, the universe, and everything. Remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I do, and yeah, I'm a little bit older than 42, but thanks for the belated birthday wish.
Yeah, man. Look, I wish we were celebrating something else that would happen today, but it didn't. And we've got to be, let's say, forthright as well as self-effacing, and all of the things that we've witnessed, and the things we want to happen, the things that are happening and manifesting now, and also reaffirm our faith in a creator, in God, that is much more powerful than any government, any political party, and that guides us through spirit, through times that, of disappointment and anger and sadness and all the emotions that people are experiencing right now, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, we do. This is the time that you got to, suck it up. And I think everybody's a little deflated today. Well, most people on our sides are a little deflated. We all had a little bit of, I guess maybe it was irrational hope, but that something was going to happen over the last few days. Mm-hmm. And it's been it's been like a roller coaster each day. You hear the different reports, like, oh yeah, Trump's going to act, and then he didn't. And it's like, oh wow, this happened. So the plan's been changed, and you have different factions within the conservative movement. You have the people that follow Q, and they're all like, trust the plan. And Alex Jones hits them hard and calls them a bunch of Q-tards. I'm not going to do that. I think it's disingenuous for us to call each other names. I mean, everybody on our side just wants freedom and liberty. So regardless of whether you follow Q, you believe some of it, whatever, or even, some of the other even more rap people that have been out there discussing what might happen, we all just want freedom. And so I think everybody that wanted to feel like they got a little bit of a gut punch today when they inaugurated Biden. Now, granted, it was a fraudulent election. The election was clearly stolen. And so is it a legitimate inauguration based on a fraudulent election? I mean, good question. Mike Adams was making that point on the roundtable that Charlene's actually hosting.
Okay.
That he may have sworn him in, but it's illegitimate because it was based upon clear fraud, and we all know it. Everyone knows it was fraud.
Well, and the thing is, of course, when they say you'll be banned and banished and deplatformed for saying hashtag STOPTHESTEAL, right? It's like, how blatant is the attack on freedom of speech when certain things are not allowed to be said? And I've pointed out that if you really believe the election was free and fair and not rife with fraud that could have overturned it, why would you care if people were out there screaming it? Because you would have all the evidence in the world to go, it's not. And of course, through the whole process that has been a great frustration to so many, is that the courts never even took the opportunity to look at evidence. And so there's a great suspicion, as I said, in the electorate, in a significant portion of the electorate. And I also argued that for the people on the left that wanted Biden to win, that's fine. Everybody has different views and you can vote the way you want. But wouldn't you want an investigation to show that your guy won fair and square, and so that people trust the electorate, so next time there'll be free and fair elections? But right now, I think the setup is a massive distrust in the electoral process. What does that manifest moving forward? I mean, do we look at 2 years from now, Ty, and go, well, we can just vote our guys and gals in, but then we go, wait a second, but we don't even trust that the count will be real and fair. So then what?
Yeah, I mean, the systems are rigged, the software's rigged, the mail-in ballots. I mean, the whole thing is rigged. A couple years ago, the Houston Astros won a World Series, and then they got busted stealing signs. And it was clear that they had several people that testified before grand juries, that they'd stolen signs or so forth. I got a couple buddies here in Nashville area that were huge Houston Astros fans. Well, I talked to them about that after the Astros, stole the World Series, and they were both disgusted with the Astros. Mm-hmm. And they're like, man, we want to win a World Series, but we want to win it fair. And I'm sick that our team did this. You would think that the people that are supportive of the Democratic side that we believe stole the election would want to prove that they didn't, but they don't. They don't want to look at the evidence. They've hidden the ballots. They've got ballots Seaport won't look at it. I mean, you would think that they would just want to at least vindicate the fact that it's clear that it was fair and balanced, and it was a clean election for Biden. It wasn't. That's why they won't look at it. It's kind of like with 9/11 when the Pentagon was hit by probably a missile, not a plane. And the FBI immediately confiscated all 86 video cameras that were filming that side of the Pentagon. And we've never seen the footage except from like one 4-frame clip that you can't tell what it is. Why, if you got nothing to hide, why are you hiding something?
Right.
And that's what's going on here. And that's what's so frustrating.
Yes. Well, and that's it. I mentioned the homeopathic remedy for frustration is argentum nitricum, which is silver nitrate, which is converted into a homeopathic form, so it's not caustic or anything. And I said also there are people that are feeling great and deep anger and great and deep sadness and depression right now for a lot of reasons. And I don't mean just the election. I talk about the destruction of joy in our country and around the world because of the fear of the invisible. In this case, a pretend or a proclaimed virus. And that more and more people within the medical and scientific field are publishing articles, Ty, that say, look, the lockdowns, they don't do anything that's worthwhile. In fact, they may be worse. They may be more harmful than helpful by far in creating even more deaths than what they're proclaiming are caused by a virus.
Yeah, and they are. And we know that the lockdowns are more harmful in many ways. Depression's up, suicide's up. I was just talking to our air condition guy a couple days ago, and he mentioned that he had told me 6 months ago that one of his best friends had committed suicide. Well, somebody else recently here in Portland, Tennessee, committed suicide, right? Mm-hmm. Because of what's going on with lockdowns, with quarantine, loss of employment. I don't know what the reason was, but I mean, you throw all these factors together, and people are they're having a hard time of it.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess I try to be philosophical about these things and Ty, to share our love of spirit and God, to get perspective on things that are temporary, right? Even our existence here is temporary. Our existence spiritually is forever. But what do we do when we have an abandonment on a significant portion of the population I think a goal, if you will, or an ideal that is very worthwhile to defend. And the defense that I talk about is now being vilified, right? Those that actually love the Constitution, love the Declaration, believe in the amendments as a protection against usurpation by government. They're trying to turn a spotlight or trying to vilify. And this is not the first time. I remember back in the 90s, in the time of Timothy McVeigh and the whole Oklahoma bombing scandal. Yeah. That they tried to say domestic terrorists, people who actually believe in individual liberty. I mean, they're dangerous. And it's the same song being played, but amped up a little bit louder with what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was watching a little bit of the roundtable that Charlene was hosting, and she had one of the pastors that was up there in D.C. with us, and it's just amazing the way that they're setting people up even right now. So you saw the guy that had the horns, that went into the Capitol. He's been everywhere. So what one of the pastors was saying is that he saw him out there, and he said, "Man, what a cool outfit. Let me get a selfie with this guy." So he got a selfie with him. He posted it on his Facebook, and now they're saying that he was the mastermind behind the break-in or the storming of the Capitol, and he was colluding with all of these different people to go in and destroy the Capitol because he posted a selfie, and he's a Christian pastor. So he said they just totally fabricated this whole story about me, and he said I didn't even know the guy. I just took a selfie with him, but because of that, now he's being demonized. So it shows you how far they'll go to demonize anybody that's associated with well, in this case, I would say a false flag, right?
Right. Well, in the court of public opinion, in a frenzy, in a crowd, we talk about insanity and insane responses. There's not a lot of rationality. There's not a lot of critical thinking going on. There's not a lot of logic being used to say, all right, and Super Don watched, God bless him, he watched the inauguration speech or whatever by Biden, and he said he's called for unity. It's nice talk, right? And he said you should even be able to disagree. And I'm like, well, that's great words, but does he mean it? Does anybody mean it now? We've become so divided. Because I believe that unity is not unifying or unity in thought. It's actually freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and divergent views, which were always a significant part of why they wrote the First Amendment in. Because if we're to write to protect all the things most people agree with, what's the point of writing that? You want to protect the speech that may not be popular at any given time.
Yeah, you don't have to protect speech that everyone agrees with. It's the most offensive speech that is protected by First Amendment. Well, all speech, but the most offensive speech is what people are having problems with, and that's what's protected is the disagreement with the norm, I guess. And that's hearing Biden say, I couldn't even watch it. I won't watch anything he's in from here on. I can't stomach even the sight of him.
Well, it's hard when you don't believe there's a sincere bone in their bodies, that they speak from. That's the difficulty.
Yeah.
And here I am, and I said it in hour one, maybe you'll concur. I think you will. We're not arguing for Biden derangement syndrome, to have seething hatred and rage against him or anybody because that just serves to do exactly what they did, which is just destructive. It's not constructive at all. There's not a lot of free flow of spirit in perpetual rage and anger and derangement. But at the same time, I agree with you. It's like I have a hard time watching most politicians speak because I don't believe there's a sincere bone in their body. And so you're like, what are they saying? Very few that you can actually believe what they're saying, in other words. So what do we do from here? Where do we go from here moment? And in this article on Breitbart, they talk about Trump saying goodbye, I love you, we'll be back in some form. Some people are talking about Trump maybe looking into forming a patriot party. We've talked about third parties for years, and they've never gained traction. Maybe this time it's different with the disaffected 75 million or so voters that feel like they weren't counted, that might finally go, Republicans have abandoned us. You keep playing Lucy in the football with us. We're done. And as a lot of Democrats walked away, the hashtag walkaway campaign, a lot of people did walk away from the Democrats. So it's not like they have a plurality on that side either.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. At this point, I'm extremely frustrated with Trump's lack of action. Look, I'll call a spade at this point. He took us to the 1 yard line, and he had, let's use a football analogy. He had William the Refrigerator Perry in the backfield from the 1986 Chicago Bears that he could have handed the ball off to and scored a touchdown, and he punted. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't know why. I don't know what happened with why he walked away, but I'm frustrated with that because all the people, the millions and millions of people that have supported him and really gone out on a limb to support him, it's like, hey, great, thanks for that. We're leaving. We're out of here now, and then we're the ones hanging out to dry at this point, and that's frustrating because we know that he had everything he needed to make this turn the other way. Mm-hmm. Now, whether something still will happen in the future, I don't know. But at this point, I'm I got to be honest. I'm frustrated. I'm not going to support someone all the time, regardless of what they do. And I think what he did here is a huge mistake.
Yeah, and we don't know all that goes on behind the scenes. We've talked about it as far as how do they control politicians in places of power. Either they buy them off, or they find them in a compromising position, or they threaten them or their family. And any number of those things are part and parcel to how stuff happens on within the power structure. I'd call it a Luciferian power structure on planet Earth. And you could go in there with all the good intentions of the world. Most of them get corrupted and co-opted in some way. I think it was clear they couldn't co-opt Trump in the way by finding him with illicit scenarios like some of the politicians clearly have been on Epstein Island and stuff. And I think that's why they completely made up so much of the Steele dossier, the things we witnessed over the last 4 years. Most of it was just absolutely insane and not based in any semblance of reality. But it certainly curtailed some of the things Trump wanted to do. But at the same time, at the end of the proverbial day or 4-year term, the things you're describing are strategies and things that were covered by a lot of folks that could have been done to say, hey, there's legitimately a big problem with what happened in this election. You can't just let it go. And yet every turn it was let go by the people who wouldn't even let it come in to be assessed and looked at. And then what? Again, I'm not privy. I don't claim to be an insider on this, but I don't know what can be done at this point, even though there are still people out there with hope. Our dearly departed friend, Liam Sheff used to call it hopium, a little bit of hopium to have something. I think
that's a lot of it now.
Yeah. But I'm trying to be pragmatic and practical to say, what do we do to go forward? What do we recognize? And what do we do wrong to not do again? Right. And I think these are sincere questions. I don't have all the answers to them. I don't pretend to do, but I think we need to be open and self-effacing and look at each other and look at ourselves and say, what could we have done differently, better? What did we do wrong? That kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. And what do we do from here? That's a good question. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I took a gut punch today when all this happened. I was, maybe I was smoking a little bit of hopium as well. Just thinking that things would turn out differently. But I don't know. I don't know where we go from here, except just one day at a time, trying to do the best we can and continue to spread the truth about freedom and health and what we've been doing. And if we, the dictatorial regime determines that that's illegal, then I'll continue to say it until they arrest me.
Yeah, no, we're not going to stop doing what is right and what our calling is, because just like the Blues Brothers said, but not in a fictional way here. We're on a mission from God, and it's one that's inclusive. It's one that doesn't try to kill people or censor people with whom we disagree. It's about recognizing that one of the greatest gifts that God gave us is freedom, is choice, is agency. And anybody that would stand in the way of that, to me, it's clear. It's not subtle. It's not muddy. That's where they've gone wrong. You can believe what you want to believe. You can believe differently than we believe, than I believe. But when you use the power and force of government to eliminate thoughts that are disagreeing with you, now you've gone too far. And look, we can get along with just about anybody. Ty, man, I've seen you get along with people that are just like, you don't agree with them. But we find common ground where we have it. And one of those things is that we're created by God, all of us, even if we disagree with what people believe. So, my appeal is to kind of be better than the other side, in terms of don't go into Trump derangement or Biden derangement and seething rage and anger permanently. And I don't sense that from you, Ty. That's not what I'm saying. But the tendency could be to be so upset that that's what people feel, that's all they're left with. And I think the left was convinced of that. And that's why they were played so strongly to do what they did in deceit, to raise more division as opposed to unity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there was so much disinfo out there, and I still don't even know what was disinfo and what wasn't, which means that the other side did a good job of muddying the waters. That we were expecting something good to come of this, because look, let's be realistic. Even the Democrats know they stole the election. Everyone knows it was stolen. I mean, that's not even, nobody really even argues with that. It was clearly stolen. So I guess in the society that we live in, where we believe that justice will prevail, we all thought, well, justice will prevail when it comes to this election. It was stolen. We all know it was stolen. The evidence shows it was stolen. All of the computer data shows it was stolen. They've even, we were on a call with McInerney about a week and a half ago. They literally gave a brief to the president that shows them the exact number of votes that were flipped. I mean, they know that it was stolen. And so I guess naively, I thought, well, there's no way they're going to let a fraud get into office. They can't, because they know it was stolen. They have proof, but they did. And so I'm just at a point, I feel like we got stabbed in the back at this point, really let down hard. And how do you get out of here? I don't know, man, day at a time for now.
Yeah, well, look, I know it's still raw, and I appreciate you being so candid in expressing your feelings, Ty, about it, because I think that's part of the process. Is we got to unload that. We can't pen it up. We can't suppress it. That's the irony of the other side. By trying to suppress speech, they actually embolden rage, and they bring on the thing that they claim they don't want. Oh, we want to stop the violence. It was like, well, let's stop the censorship. Allow people to communicate and express their views. And then people will feel better about the process, that they're actually being heard, and then you follow through on that. That's not what's happening, which means that there are those that are engaged in strengthening already pre-existing authoritarian regimes within our government. And whether you like Trump or not out there, or still like him or not out there, is sort of irrelevant to the fact that there's a lot about our government, whether we call it deep state, bureaucratic oligarchy, different agencies that are more powerful than all three branches of government combined. In other words, they're operating outside of the Constitution right now. Executive, judicial, legislative, all in one. And that's like things like FDA, FCC, FTC, the CDC, the NIH, all of these things that have been given like the powers of the emperor to decree and declare, to shut down the economy, to say you are not essential. What you do is not essential. So sorry. Maybe we'll throw you $600, but tough nubs, we've got to stop this thing that is, I would call a fictional virus. Whether you believe the virus is real or not is irrelevant to my statement of it being fictional, and that claims of causation are greatly exaggerated. And that's an understatement. And so what are we to do? As we said, Trump couldn't solve all of that in 4 years, maybe not even in 8. No. But the people, the we the people scenario, that means you, that means me, that means Rosa Parks. Got to figure out, how do we stand up and say, no, this doesn't fly, this doesn't pass. And I think the growth or the awareness of the 10th Amendment, our buddy Michael Bolden from the 10th Amendment Center is going to join us. You remember meeting him at the Truth About Cancer in Anaheim last time. He's a great guy. And I think we'll be talking more and more about the power of nullifying unconstitutional federal prohibitions and mandates, and even state level, via this concept of the 10th Amendment, nullification of the power to say no when they don't have the authority, and there's more of us than there are of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's certainly going to happen if, Biden gets in and says, hey, we're going to make, quote, assault weapons illegal, at the federal level. And then the states just say, you go pound sand. We don't care. We're still going to allow them in our states.
Right.
I think there will be people who do that. So I think you're right. I think we may go to that place. And it might be that sooner rather than later. And it also could be regarding some of the draconian coronavirus rules that he wants to pass. I mean, he's already talked about, the first 100 days, forced mask everywhere. I'm not wearing one.
No, and there is no federal authority. That's the point of the 10th Amendment. The federal government has no authority to do so. We would argue that the state governments don't really either. They're operating outside of their constitutional limitations, governors and state departments of health and local health departments. But we've got to find that out on the localist of local levels, how to push back via constitution and code, et cetera, and then broad spectrum civil disobedience. As I said, Rosa Parks moments. No, I will not get onto the back of the bus. No, I will not put on a mask and limit my breathing. We already know scientifically that it doesn't work, and now they're saying, well, wear 2 masks then. Create a better obstacle course so the virus can't get through the chain link fence that the mosquito can't.
Moronic.
Yeah.
And before, I don't want to come down too hard on Trump, because the guy has he is probably has the most intestinal fortitude of anybody that I know. I don't know him personally, but anybody that I know of, right? He's been attacked for 4 years every day, unjustly, just viciously attacked. And he's been turned on by so many traitors and government that have stabbed him in the back. So, I don't mean to be overly hard on Trump, because he's done a lot of good things, but how many people did he help get in office, whether it's a senator or a governor, that then turned around and totally ran away with the tail between their legs when the going got tough and didn't support him, over the last 60 days. So, I know he's had a tough go of it, so I don't want to come across that way either. But at the same time, I feel like he took us almost to the finish line and then punted. And that's a frustrating feeling. It's not like it was, it wasn't 4th and 25 from the 25-yard line and we had to score, and it's a very small chance. It was 1st and goal from the 1, and he took a knee 3 times and then punted. I mean, it was that we had everything we needed, and I don't know why he didn't push it further. But maybe we will one day. Maybe I'm reacting a little bit too quickly.
Well, yeah, exactly. We don't know what will come out, but there's a lot that is hidden from us and has been for a long time, folks, a long time. And, if anything, this show is about healing. And I've talked about political healing as well. And that doesn't mean sing hands, hold hands and sing songs just because that will do it automatically. But it's a recognition that there are root causes that have not been acknowledged going back maybe centuries. In fact, if you talk, biblical perspective, certainly. But even from the standpoint of the founding of our government in America and the Declaration and everything that it's led to, the Constitution after the Articles of Confederation, and, what Jonathan Emord is writing about the authoritarian movement of the progressive movement of the 19th century through the 20th and now the 21st. So we didn't get here overnight. And that's why I said, if you like Trump and thought he could do good and he did some good, it wasn't like he could change it all in 1 or even 2 terms. As I said, even if Ron Paul were elected president back in 12 or 08, it still wouldn't solve. There's so much deep state muck and corruption. The issue is, I believe, centralization versus decentralization. And our founders did warn us about that if we centralize power in one place, It would be too easy to become corrupted and controlled, and we're witnessing that in our lifetime. That was not something that we weren't warned about. I know that's a double negative. My wife's going to get me for that. We were definitely warned about that. Okay, honey? So
you can use a double negative for emphasis. That's okay.
Okay. Oh, say Ty says it's okay, honey. All right. Love you, my brother. One day late on the birthday.
Agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, no, Nancy agrees with that. She's a grammar Nazi. She understands that sometimes you do use a double negative for emphasis. So
for emphasis.
That's perfectly acceptable.
I'll double check with her after the show and get back with you. But all right, Ty.
Don't not check with her.
Thank you, Ty. That's perfect. Listen, we got to take a break. Take a breather, deep breath, say a prayer, sing a song, whatever you got to do. Hold hands, hug your loved ones, and we'll be all right. We're going to get through this. This too shall pass, and we're just going to talk about it. I think it's part of the cathartic process to discuss these things. We've got some stories we may want to bring up as well. And interesting, this hour, I'm going to do something shocking, Ty. I'm going to agree with Rashida Tlaib, one of the, what do they call her? One of the squad?
Yeah, you're right.
Don't run away, Ty. You're going to look at this and assess it with me and see what you think. But this is a shocking moment. Okay. It's like me occasionally going, well, CNN got one thing right? Oh, it bums me out. But we have intellectual integrity here, so we'll talk about that as well. Stick around. We'll hear from Super Don, too. Say thanks to our friends at Synergy Science, our buddy Paul, and the key technology, the WaveGuard. Everybody's getting it. Be one of the cool people protected from Wi-Fi and more. Right here on the Robert Scott Bell Show. We'll be right back.
Today, we live in an omnipresent cloud of charged particles emitted by electronic devices, electromagnetic fields, WLAN, and radio waves. These particles penetrate our bodies and heat the water in our body tissues. Recent scientific studies have shown that this particle flux not only heats the cells in our bodies as if we were in a microwave oven, but damages them as well. At Key Technologies, we want to protect you from the negative effects of such particles, so we have developed the Key Home Cell and other products. The Key Home Cell creates a protective field that works like a filter, intercepting any dangerous particles before they can enter your body. Here we have a partial look at the inner workings of the Key Home Cell. The Key Home Cell generates a charge exchange between the water tubes, thereby discharging free electrons and releasing them into the room. Within 24 hours, the Key Home Cell creates a torus field. The free electrons formed in the torus use their negative charge to bind to the positively charged harmful particles, thereby rendering them harmless to you. The torus field has an effective range of 16.4 feet above and below, and 24.6 feet around the device. The torus field created by the Key Home Cell is transmitted and provides you with protection through the walls of your home. Not only humans and animals are shielded from harmful radiation, but plants and food too. Whether mobile radio waves or WLAN, any particles that come within the torus field can no longer cause any harm to you or your family. The Key Home Cell provides you with all-around protection, allowing you to communicate with absolute peace of mind when using your cell phone or any other electronic devices. The Key Home Cell's free electrons are transmitted into the water through the torus field and repairing the water structure that was destroyed by radiation particles. Water regains its ideal vibrating hexagonal grid structure. The difference is easy to taste and can be proven with laboratory testing. This type of perfect hexagonal water structure is found in fresh spring and healing water and has also been seen in snowflakes. The same effect happens with our food, which also contains water. The Key Home Cell greatly reduces radiation exposure from cell phones, laptops, WLAN transmitters, mobile terminals, and other sources of radiation. The Key Home Cell drastically reduces the thermal stress on your body tissue. It is very fast and very easy. With the Key Home Cell, you will experience a new quality of well-being within your home and more life energy without any unhealthy exposure to radiation.
All right, y'all, back at it here. Listen, I appreciate so much the, what would we call the candid discussion here, TMB, out to and there you are, Super D. We pretty much wear our beliefs on our sleeves. We don't hide, in the bushes. We're like, this is what we believe. And, we're dealing with a lot of different emotions today. And I think part of the process of recovery, and I don't mean this in a defeated way, because I don't think I'm ever going to say we're defeated, there's no more liberty, we can't be free. That's just not happening, folks. But at the same time, I acknowledge that some people don't value freedom. As we talked about yesterday, that 3-minute clip, I don't know if I sent that to you, Ty, but Super Don pulled it out. and I talked about the lockdowns. Is it because we're afraid of dying or we're afraid of living? Right? I think these are questions we got to answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think you're right. And I think that fear is driving so many people's decisions today, especially when it comes to the coronavirus, that, I mean, it takes you back to that scene in Braveheart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not every man dies, but not every man truly lives. So we're all going to die. I mean, there's germs, there's viruses, there's bacteria. You gotta get crushed by a car going out to the, in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to die. But are you so afraid of getting sick or something happening to you that you self-isolate and then don't live? And that's where we're at. That's what we've been doing for a year, is this irrational fear of a virus that's 0.001% deadly at best.
Yeah.
Right.
Arguably less deadly than a seasonal flu in many cases. Again, this is not me and Ty saying it. We've referred to public literature, medical literature, peer-reviewed literature. So to deplatform people for pointing out discrepancies in I mean, this is absurd. This is beyond silly.
Yeah. And so are we so afraid of that we stop living, that we just quarantine ourselves in our house and don't go out without a mask or don't go out at all? Who was I talking to a couple of days ago? Oh yeah. Our plumber. And he was talking about his elderly parents, like literally for the last year, they have not seen anyone. They've been, and then one of them is going to be gone soon. And, they're trying to figure out, will they be able to go see them before they die? Or are they going to do a Zoom call?
Yeah.
No, there wasn't our plumber. I can't remember who it was. I've talked to so many people about this lately.
Right.
But, that's their decision right now as a family, is that, are they going to have to do a Zoom call to say goodbye to their father? And that's absurd. I mean, it's like we stopped living, and that you're absolutely right. Let's just start living again. Go out, get dirty.
Mm-hmm.
I welcome being exposed to coronavirus. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Hit me up. I already got sick this summer. I had sort of a bad flu / it may have been coronavirus. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I already got sick this summer. I mean, sometimes you feel sick for a few days. You got the head cold and you're like really tired or whatever. And that's where I was. So, but I got over it. It wasn't anything bad. It was just, got a chance to watch a little more Andy Griffith.
Well, even those that are full in on Corona, right? And all playing it up, acknowledge that the average folks out there really don't have a problem with it. That's not even controversial to say that. Although some would like to try to ban us for saying it, but it's factual as factual can be. And so I think many people, perhaps most people, have been exposed to whatever they claim is going around at this point. I've talked about losing sense of smell and taste. And, I've talked about that in terms of, as a homeopath, I've had people come to me for help for the last 25 years that have lost sense of taste and smell long before they had, Corona is the only thing that does it. Sorry, that's not the case. But the fact that you have, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But the reality is the vast majority of people, even when they encounter this, are not going to have a problem and haven't had a problem. And so we shut down the whole world based on saving people that Cuomo and others have actually contributed to their demise by isolating and constraining them and piling them together in sickness, who are already sick and on death's door. So we've got a lot to correct, because even as Trump, had his 4 years, do we still not have almost total and absolute control by the Church of Pharmaceutical Mysticism at the government level? I mean, think about
absolutely.
it. Yeah,
we do. And I mean, if some miracle happens and, Trump gets back in there, or they declare Biden ineligible because it was stolen or whatever, we still have the issue of the coronavirus vaccine that he pushed 1,000% for. And every time he did, I cringed. I'm like, come on, what are you doing? The dangers of vaccines. But we still have that issue regardless of who is at the helm, whether it's Trump or whether it's the puppet Biden. It doesn't really matter. Pharma still is running DC.
Yeah. And so we can't take our eye off of that concern that we all have, and that when we argue for freedom, we've never stood in the way of people that want pharma if they want it. But it's beyond the pale when they say you have to have it, and which is why we opposed Obamacare, among many reasons, many years ago, because it would force or fine you for not participating in the third leading cause of death. I mean, how is that right in a free country?
Well, it's not, but regardless, they've still brainwashed the majority of the people into thinking that pharma is a good thing. I mean, we were just at church on Sunday, and this elderly man stood up, and it was during the time that they asked for anybody else have any prayer requests, and he said, I have some concerns about the coronavirus vaccine. I'm like, all right, maybe he's going to mention, and he says, we're really in danger of running out. There's a limited supply, and we got to pray to have enough for everyone. I'm like, oh. Goodness. I just looked at Charlene, and my brother Ron was sitting next to me, and he tapped me on the shoulder, and we're just shaking our heads going, oh my goodness, the church is so brainwashed when it comes to vaccines.
Well, and I said it about synagogues and temples and everything. I mean, almost all the major religions of the world have subjugated themselves to the faith in a false religion or a cult, and that is big pharma, and it's disappointing. And yet it's so entrenched for, as I've said, generations or even centuries now, since the dawning of the germ theory corrupted the law of the terrain. And what set forward was the play that we're in the midst of right now. I don't know what act we're in, but we wouldn't be here if we were not afraid of germs. Without the fear of germs, they couldn't get away with any of what they're doing today. It would be a laughing point. Anybody pointing out, oh, this virus, they would be a laughing stock. And of course, because we see through it, we're considered, oh, well, they're dangerous people spreading disinformation and misinformation. It's like there are people within the medical field that are waking up every day. We just heard from a comment of the day last hour. I was commenting on, it was like half of the nursing home patients, or Super Don, remind me the percentage. Was it half of the nurses or people at nursing homes in New York that were refusing the vaccine? What was the number? It was percentage-wise? Do you remember? It was yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Well, I can pull it up here. It was, it was significant, like half, close to half. It was the nurses as well as the nursing home residents.
Right, significant percentages of them. This was a story out of New York saying we don't want the shot, and I thought, how is that happening? Because no one's listening to the Robert Scott Bell Show in New York nursing homes. Lo and behold, we had a nurse write in. I'm in a nursing home in New York. I listen to you every day. I'm like, okay, had no idea.
That's great. That's great. And, that reminds me of something else. I was reading a story last week. It was a nursing home in New York State. I don't think it was a city, but 300 patients. And prior to December 24th, when they started giving the coronavirus vaccine, they had not had any deaths due to coronavirus. And then now they've had 24 deaths in the first month.
Yeah.
Since they started rolling out the coronavirus vaccine. Before that, they didn't have any. So the vaccines killed 24 elderly people, but they're going to keep pushing it on the elderly.
Yeah, and by the way, this article, Super Don, said 70,000 nursing home residents, 57,000 been vaccinated, while 13,000 have declined. So the majority of the decliners are actually the staff. It said, meanwhile, out of 89,000 nursing home staff, 41,000 have declined. 45% or something. You got the numbers in your head, but a significant portion are going, and these are the staff at the nursing homes.
Yeah, and so if the staff declines, that's a problem because they see what's going on.
Yeah, they're witnessing it firsthand.
Very similar to oncologists who won't take chemo. A large percentage of oncologists won't do chemo themselves because they see how toxic it is and how it kills the patients.
Yeah,
the staff in these nursing homes are seeing how toxic this COVID vaccine is.
Folks, remember, mRNA vaccines have never before been on the market. They didn't do animal testing on this. There are arguments and more studies going in saying that this can permanently alter your genetic expression at a cellular level. And they don't know what other autoimmune responses that can result, as they've discovered, of course, just the immune response from those who have allergies. Not just severe allergies to ingredients, but now they keep broadening that as they discover. Again, we talk about the guinea pig status of anybody getting this shot. They rushed this to market. They did cut corners. And now we're finding out what it's doing. And a lot of people, as we say, in the nursing home staff are going, geez, we see this happening. And it's like, I don't think we want to participate in that. So how do they shut that down? Because it's beyond us. It's beyond me talking. They're witnessing this. That's what's causing this to happen. Yeah. If one person listened to me, that's fine, but it's not thousands in these nursing homes. These people are figuring it out on their own.
Well, they're figuring it out, and the thing that's just despicable to me is that when, like, Vice President Pence stood there and said, we haven't cut any corners. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, that is an outright lie.
Yeah.
It's not. it's not just a little bit off. It's 180 degrees diametrically opposed to what the truth is, that they have not cut any corners. And when the vice president of the United States goes on national TV and says, you can trust this vaccine, we haven't cut any corners, when the reality is they skipped animal testing, which is probably the most important part to determine if there are bad side effects. And he just outright lies to everyone. Look, let me tell you something. He might fool people, but he hadn't fooled God. And God holds people accountable for that. And I guarantee you, Vice President Mike Pence is going to be held accountable for that, for the people that have died, that trusted his words and took the vaccine because he said they hadn't cut any corners and they died. He hadn't fooled God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're talking about, those deep spiritual levels that are a deep part of us and everything that we do here. Ty, there's a couple articles I want to wrap up with here in the next 10 minutes or so. The left and the deep state seem eager to turn war on terror tools on the American people. Remember, where did the war on terror tools come from? Well, George W. Bush, after 9/11, the Patriot Act, where certainly the political right, the neocon right, which has become the neocon left, cheerleaded this dragnet of looking at everybody as a potential terrorist, including American citizens, although we were supposed to have protections against. We're not spying on American citizens. But now, because of the whole Capitol Hill narrative, which is wrong, as they're finding out, CNN may have had a part in that, interestingly embedded into that they are using that crisis as a focal point to go after Americans who have nothing to do with anything. Like you said, making up lies because somebody took a selfie. The left is, the deranged loony left at this point, and I'll say it about the deranged loony right from the neocon side back in the George W. Bush era after Patriot Act, gave up on freedom and just went all in on big government can save us when it was the great danger our founders warned us against.
And that happened, after 9/11, mostly to the radical right, as they call us, but it happened to me. Right. I mean, I didn't really catch on to 9/11 for several years after it had happened. And during that period of time, I drunk the Kool-Aid completely. And I remember seeing things on Fox News or they would say, they're taking away the rights of this person, but they were allegedly involved in the 9/11 bombings. And I remember literally saying to people that I worked with that due to the fact that we're at war and they attacked us, we shouldn't worry about taking their rights. We should make sure that we're safe.
No due process.
I mean, I was like, no due process. And I supported that until I woke up. But, which means they've done a really good job at brainwashing people out of fear, right? It was a fear campaign against all these bad Muslims that attacked our country on 9/11, when the reality is, most of them are still alive, or at least they were several years ago. Most of them didn't die that allegedly were there in those plane crashes. Those were totally,
they were patsies.
Yeah,
and you don't have to agree with the theology of people of the Muslim faith, but the vast majority of Muslims are just working here in America trying to get by like Jews and Christians and everybody else. Whether you agree with what their theology is or what their beliefs are, it's like, watch what they do, not what you say that they do or think that they believe. Again, and this is where the fear drove us out of our minds. Critical thinking skills be damned. Here's another article that builds on what we just said. A former intelligence official, which means a deep state CIA person, is arguing for a 9/11 commission for domestic extremism. So more spying, let's see, we like what the East German Stasi did. We like what the KGB did in the Soviet Union. We need to spy on Americans who have political beliefs that we don't like and make it so everybody goes, yeah, they don't need due process. Just like the neocons convinced a lot of people of after 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's 80 million they can go after because it's pretty much going to be anybody that didn't vote for Biden, or maybe 90 million, 100 million, who knows what that number is, but there's a large chunk of people that they'll have as targets at that point.
Yep, and so here they're saying, look, they're tying into the 9/11 rhetoric. This guy from the CIA says, as an old intelligence hand, there are elements of this that remind me of the rise of Islamic extremism and what it looks like. And there are probably a fair number of lessons that we've learned in the fight against foreign terrorism that can be applied here, and some lessons we probably don't want to apply. But, this is the point. Making the political beliefs of half of the population tied to some form of domestic terrorism now. Or is the political left going for it? I don't think the rank and file, let's say you really have a belief you lean left politically, because a lot of them have walked away from the Democrats. I agree. But there is still a small, deranged, angry, without critical thinking skills group that are going, I want vengeance. You supported Trump. You didn't hate him enough. I want, and this is they're playing on their emotions. They're not operating from critical thinking, from higher mind, or even spiritual sides. And that is of great concern. It should be of great concern to everybody from every political persuasion right now.
Yeah, and I think the people that are intellectually honest, that are more liberal leaning, well, they realize that. It's the people that are just deranged, that they hate Trump and the Trump supporters so much that they would be in favor of that. Unfortunately, that it never stops with the one group. It always goes to other groups and other groups, which is,
it keeps expanding.
The famous quote, right? They came for the trade workers, but I wasn't a trade worker, so I didn't care. And they came for the socialists, and I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't care. Whatever that is. And then they came for the Jews, and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't care. And then they came for me, and there was no one left. And that's what it is at this point. Look, they start out with the Trump supporting patriots, but a tyrannical government, an overreaching government, never stops. They always want more power over more people. So those that are intellectually honest on the left should realize that pretty soon they're coming for you too.
Yeah. So here we go.
It's the 1% of 1% elites that want to control everyone else.
So here we go. At the risk of losing most of our audience right now, we're going to do something I never thought I would do. Is that I'm not speaking for Ty. He can read this as I read it out to you, and you tell me, Ty, what you think of this. Like we said, we claim to have intellectual integrity here. Like when we like what Trump did, we say it. When we dislike what he did, we say it. Same with Obama before him. We were not supporters of Obama, but if he did something we said, that's good. We would be intellectually honest enough to say that. Now, here's the tweet from one of the squad. We rarely, if ever, have I said I agree with the squad or anybody in the squad. This is Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman, I think in Minnesota. She says, I'm leading the call for national security powers to not be expanded in light of the attack on our nation's capital that occurred 2 weeks ago, as such measures often lead to the erosion of Americans' civil liberties.
Yep, I agree completely.
Oh my gosh, Ty, are we traitors to our cause now because we actually agreed with, or do we have, again, an acknowledgement that this woman, even if we disagree with her on everything else, has acknowledged the history, because I believe she's of the Muslim faith. She probably remembers very well that her community was being targeted and rights being violated and spying and on it went. That is what the left now is arguing for, to look at anybody who supported Trump. And she actually has, at this moment of clarity, said, no, this is not a good plan. This is not a good idea. And unless somebody hijacked her Twitter account, I'm going to applaud her on that and say we need more people on the political left that we disagree with on a lot of things to say, you know what, that's just a step too far.
I agree completely. I might not agree with her on anything else or very few other things, but she's right there. So I definitely agree with her on that. And that's what we have to be, is intellectually honest. It doesn't matter who it comes from. It reminds me of the Mark Dice interviews on the beach with all of the college kids, that when when Trump first implemented his tax cut, and they said, what do you think of the Obama tax cuts that do this, 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 and this? And they were like, we are total favor of that. And he says, oh, that was actually Trump. And then they were like, what?
Yeah.
Right. And then they're like, well, I don't know if I can support it.
Right.
Well, That's not intellectually honest.
Yeah. Well, with that intellectual honesty, which I expected nothing less, and Ty as well, you delivered. And again, if we find out if somebody captured her Twitter feed, we'll let you know. But if that was her, we just say that is a statement of honesty and integrity. Even though, again, there's a lot of other crazy stuff. So, folks, I think we need to be able to acknowledge that. With that, TMB, my love and hugs to your whole family. And Charlene, thanks for all that she's doing in the roundtable that's going on right now. And if I can do anything to help, let her know. I'm always here for you guys. And
for sure.
Appreciate you so very much. So if you would, round out the show with what we got to do before we got to go.
Always remember, the power to heal is yours.
Even now.
Even now.
The Robert Scott Bell Show. Robert Scott Bell Show.